Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today we have an exciting video. This is the best IEM I've heard at $110. This thing is actually incredible and let's talk about it. So this is the Kiwi Ears Quartet. Quartet meaning there's 4 drivers, right? And what's really special is that 2 of these drivers are bass drivers and the other 2 are BA drivers. Now, the 2 bass drivers is honestly what I think is a mandatory requirement nowadays for multi-driver IEMs, because the bass drivers really give you that low end thump and that shake and that actual physical feeling of bass. And this IEM definitely has all those qualities, and a lot of things at this price point don't have the same amount of resolution in the bass. And this does have a nice bass quantity too, so it makes it sound really fun. And that's what I enjoy about it. And then of course the other 2 drivers, the BA drivers, add to the mid-range and to the treble, making it sound very resolving. So that's really good to see. So I actually compared this to 6 other IEMs to make sure that I wasn't being delusional. Like, this is the best IEM I've heard at $110 and it sounds really good. So another special thing about this is that it actually has tuning switches, so you can get 4 different tunings out of this IEM, and it also comes with 3 tips. So 4 times 3 is literally 12 different sound profiles that you can get out of this IEM, and I tested each one, so I'm gonna let you know which one is the best as well. This is also an exciting video for me because this is the first collab I have to do with Linsel, and I've always wanted to work with Linsel, and it's only possible because of you guys watching my videos and subscribing, so thank you guys. And then of course, thank you to Linsel for sending this out for me to review. And I will be leaving links to Linsel in the description below. And I also want to say is that I'm happy that my first collab with Linsel is actually a really great product. Like, I'm actually putting this at the top of my IEM recommendation list because I actually think this is really that good. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Kiwi Ears Quartet. So this has this nice purple shell that's actually made of medical resin. So what that makes it is it's actually super light. That's the thing that I've noticed about this. Like, when I put this in my ear, it feels like a feather. It is so light and I barely even feel the weight. And that's honestly adds to its comfort because you don't feel like it's weighing down your ears, which is really nice. Now the size of this thing is, I would say it's relatively kind of big, but it fits really well, and because it's lightweight, I find it very comfortable, and I didn't really have any issue with comfort at all. And this cable right here is a black cable that terminates into a 3.5 millimeter. So it's a standard cable that isn't anything, different. It's a nice black cable, so it'll fit with a lot of aesthetics, I think. Here you can see the different profile, right? So you can set the tuning switches like up and down. So there's 4 different combinations that you can set. In my opinion, as you can see here, I think the up and down configuration is the best with these black tips. So here's all the accessories that it comes with. So this is a nylon case. You can open it up. It has a little bit place where you can put like your tips and stuff, but a very standard case, and it's nice that it's included. We have 3 different tips. So we have the black, the white, and I could just call these the red tips, but you can also call them gray, but I just call them red because it's very kind of prominent. And then they also come with this little device in here that helps you kind of flip the tuning switches. All right, so let's talk about sound, right? So when it comes to sound, like I said, the best configuration is the up down configuration with the black tips. Now the other tips have different properties, so in my opinion the white tip is the brightest of the bunch. The black tip is a little bit more kind of neutral rather than this one, and then the red ones are like less like upper mid-range, lower treble intensive, so I find these just the least bright of the 3. So for me, I just found the black one to work with the best combinations of what I was testing. So there's different switch configurations. So my favorite was the up-down configuration. I think my second favorite was up-up. Third one was definitely, I think, down-up. And then the last one I liked was down-down. I just found that one to be a little bit brighter than the rest. But that's kind of what I've tested with these tips. All right, so let's talk about sound. So the Quartet has probably the most pleasing sound I've ever heard. It sounds very honestly consumer leaning. So what I mean by that is like, the bass of this is reminiscent of something like the AirPods Max or something like a Bose QC35 type of headphone. So it has this nice bass boost that is really fun and very enjoyable, but you have a lot of quality in that bass. The mid-range is also really full, and then the treble has this nice kind of detail without being like fatiguing at all. Going in specifics, when it comes to the bass, you can definitely hear the sub bass and the bass quantity that this has. It has a lot of quantity, but you can also hear the quality because it has its dedicated bass drivers. The quality of this bass sounds absolutely amazing, especially for how much bass it puts out. These things literally make me feel like the way I felt when I listened to the Moondrop Variations. Like the Moondrop Variation probably has one of the best bass I've heard, but it's $500. This thing at $110 is really good. I think this is the next best thing next to the Moondrop Variations, at least for me. Now for the mid-range as well, the mid-range of this is nice and full. It is like, I was listening to music and you know, they even said it on the website that this is very like studio type tuning with a bass boost. And I'm really inclined to agree that this is what this sounds like. It has this nice full mid-range that the vocals are very forward. Whether it's kind of male vocals or female vocals, they sound good. I do think the male vocals are slightly more kind of warm. It has a little bit of that extra like mid bass that kind of, you know, goes into the lower mid, so you definitely hear a little of that extra warmth in this IEM. And then for the female vocals, they're also very, very nice. Like it has a nice mid-range rise into the treble where you can hear all of it. They sound forward, they sound very pleasant, but it doesn't have any of that like sharpness effect at all. So it's very pleasant, easy to listen to, which is really good. And then of course, the last thing I want to talk about is like soundstage and imaging. I found the soundstage of this thing to be actually quite impressive. I remember when I was listening to the song, essentially I can hear the instrument in the center, and then somehow the sound sounded all the way over here to the left. And I was like, wow, like that distance between how far that sounds to the middle was quite impressive. And yeah, so I would say the soundstage is actually pretty decent, and I was really impressed with it. Now the imaging on this is even better. So I was playing games in Valorant, I was testing this and like, yeah, I could hear exactly where my opponents are, everything. So I can definitely tell whether they're above me, below me, in front of me. This is really an imaging monster in my opinion. So if you want to play games on this, it's really good. And on top of like playing games with this, because it has a nice like lightweight comfort to it, you can also wear this for long periods of time, which makes it even, you know, a higher recommendation for me, at least for gaming. So it definitely wins in that department. So to confirm my conclusions, you know, I was like, I wanted to test against everything that I have right now. So I compared it to 6 other IEMs on the table. There's actually another one over here. And just to confirm that this is actually as good as I think it is, right? So, you know, here's the Moondrop shoe right here. It's like a $20 IEM. It definitely sounds better. This is kind of my control. Like if you can't sound better than $20 IEM, then, you know, it's really hard for me to recommend, right? It definitely sounds better than that. Then the next one we have is the Truth Ear Clinical Zero. So I compared to Truth Ear Clinical Zero, and the Clinical Zero just has a little bit too much like treble sharpness. And that's where I think it edges out with the Kiwi. It's just better kind of refined treble in my opinion. And of course, I think the bass is also a little bit more boosted in this, but it also sounds cleaner and more controlled, while this one sounds a little sloppy at times. Now, the next price point up we have is this one right here. So this is the Dunu Titan S. Dunu Titan S has always been a little bit of a flatter type of bass, a little bit of a brighter signature. So in comparison, the Kiwi is just a lot more fun sounding in my opinion. It also has a little bit less of that sharpness in the treble as well. So it sounds a little bit more refined up there. So in my opinion, this is a more fun sounding one versus this is more of the like neutral bright type of sound that some people enjoy more. And then this is my latest review. This is the Moondrop Stellaris, if you guys should check out that video. But essentially it's a planar IEM, so it's very, very detailed sounding. However, the biggest issue with the Stellaris is it's just very bright. So I'm not a guy who likes very, very bright, so I do find it like a little bit kind of tiring and fatiguing on this, versus this one is much more controlled. I think it has way more bass boost as well. I actually enjoy the bass of this one better than this. And of course, obviously the mid-range of this is actually much more present than on the Stellaris. So really the Kiwi Ears is just better tuned than the Stellaris. Now over here, we have probably the closest and most similar competitor right here. This is the Hydiz MD4. I actually reviewed this one and it has the same 4 tuning switches on there as well. And it also comes with 3 tips. So it was actually really similarly made to the Kiwi Ears, but the biggest difference between these two, and the reason why I think the Kiwi Ears is superior, is because this one only comes with 4 BA drivers. It lacks the two dynamic drivers. And this is a good example of when you compare having a dynamic driver and not having one. Because they have the same tuning switches, tips, and just different driver configurations, really, I can hear the bass sound so much more exciting, so much more fun, so much more dynamic, so much more physical. You can kind of hear that, feel that rumble. Then these, just the BA drivers don't have as much. Now, I think they still sound tight and good, but they just don't slap as hard as they do on the Kiwi Ears. And that's why I think the Kiwi Ears sounds better. And of course, I do think the Kiwi Ears have a little bit more fuller of a mid-range than this one as well. Now, the last one to compare is the Moondrop Variation. So the Moondrop Variations is 5 times more expensive than the Kiwi Ears. It is $500 or $550, I believe. And this is probably my favorite IEM I've heard. It's a very bassy one as well, and they're very similar. This is like the first IEM that I would say is kind of the budget or cheaper version of the Variations. This is the thing I would substitute if you didn't want to spend $500 IEM. I would definitely get the Kiwi Ears in as like a substitute replacement instead of spending all the money on the Moondrop Variations. They're both very similar sounding, very fun sounding. And for me, for this to get this close to the sound of the Variation is a very positive note, right? So my conclusion, this is my new benchmark IEM. At $110, I think it sounds super, super good. As a multi-driver IEM, it has good soundstage, good bass, and a nice natural mid-range treble. So this is honestly an easy recommend for me and for everyone to listen to. The only people I wouldn't recommend this for is if you don't like a lot of bass, I guess. If you like the flat type of bass, then there are definitely other IEMs that kind of fit in that category. But for everybody else, I do think this is the most like consumer type of friendly IEM I've heard, and I think everyone's gonna enjoy it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe down below. Helps my videos out. And you guys definitely want to check out my other videos I made on like the planar IEMs, the Moondrop Variations. I have a lot of different ones if you guys are interested in that. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.